Woohoo, we're live. All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Whether you are watching live with us here shortly or you're watching this back, we have one of our guests here today. However, other guest is in the middle of a thunderstorm in the Northeast. Not like that ever happens. And she's lost power in her entire area. So we're going to have Jordan step up and carry the whole live Q&A. And then we'll get Alyssa back on with Jordan next month. So we're here specifically today to talk about nothing we've talked about before, surprisingly, or at least in a long time, right? At Family Source, we get these questions a lot and we try to cover so much from an educational perspective to get you prepared for any journey, whether it's egg donation or surrogacy or as a parent. But this specific topic we haven't covered in a while. So this is what's so great. It's really going to help prepare you if you're interested in becoming a surrogate on what you need to bring or be prepared for. So with that, let's start with introducing our guest, and then we'll jump into the questions that have been pre-submitted. Jordan, please introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your professional experience here at Family Source, how you got involved in surrogacy. I could not say that to save my life. And a little about your multiple journeys. And I'm going to clock you no more than 5-6 minutes so we can get to the questions, because you've got such a great history. We could talk just an entire podcast on you.
Oh, well, thank you. That's very flattering. So my name is Jordan, if you haven't met me. I work with the GC Surrogate and Admissions team. I also help with like the review and matching process as well. So I am a 3-time surrogate. I just recently got heartbeat confirmation for my 3rd journey. So yay. I do a lot of the medical reviews once we get surrogates through intake. I do all their records requests. I follow up on getting their records. I contact surrogates if I'm struggling to get their records. And then I do all the reviews. And then once we are completed with the review, we work as a team to kind of get those intended parent profiles out to a surrogate. And then once they pick a profile and the intended parents also want to move forward, we work on match meetings. And then Alyssa and I work together on getting those records sent to the IVF clinic that the intended parents work with. So lots of behind the scene work, but a little bit on the surface of getting to know people. So as far as my personal experience, I did my first journey about 7 or 8 years ago is when I signed my contract. The first journey I did, I carried twins for a French couple. They'll be 7 this year. And then my second surrogacy journey, I had delivered a baby boy last summer. I was kind of like on the fence of, I don't really need to do this again. And then my intended parent left to go home, and I was like, I could totally do this again. So I signed up. Around my 6-month mark, I was like, I'm doing this. So we just had heartbeat confirmation yesterday. So pretty exciting.
I'm so excited for that. So you're also very big on social media, which I love, and you're very candid about your journey, about your experiences from your previous journeys, as well as your current, and really just that connection with intended parents. And so for those of you who would like to follow, this is really two-sided, because as you're tied to Family Source, it helps us as well, because you're so informative to potential surrogates. I want them to have that knowledge. So if you're just watching and you don't follow Jordan, Jordan can be followed on Instagram at
Jordan Alicia. I'm pretty sure there's an RN, but it's at Jordan Alicia on Instagram.
Okay. And TikTok?
On TikTok, it's at Jordan Alicia RN.
Okay, perfect. And
I know
that's good. I think it's important, because I know a lot of these women reach out to you directly, and we can't always put you on a live Q&A. We just have you 24/7 for everybody to ask you questions. So that's a great avenue for those of you who are not necessarily able to join, but you want to communicate to Jordan. She represents Family Source in the absolute best light at all times, and surrogacy. So it's a beautiful connection there. So I don't typically do social media shout outs, but this one I felt was really important because of how they directly contact you. Okay, so we're going to get to just a few questions. And for those of you watching, This is a live Q&A. So if you're watching on Facebook or if you're watching on YouTube, submit your questions. They come through and we can see them right here. I'll put them up on the screen and Jordan will answer them. If we get to the end and you have not submitted a question, but you still have one, Jordan will tell us at the very end how you can reach out to still get those questions answered. So, first question that came through is pending. Give it a second. Oh, Jasmine, one of our fabulous surrogate ambassadors, says, hey, hey. So say hi back. So the first question is, if someone knows they're interested in becoming a surrogate but have no idea where to start, what are some things that you recommend that they do?
So this is actually a really good question because there's a lot of information out there and you're kind of like trying to navigate yourself into where do I go with it. So I guess for me, the biggest thing is I fell into it from a family friend. So do you know somebody who's been a surrogate before? More specifically, a gestational surrogate, because there are two different kinds. Do you have an agency local to you? So like, are you stationed in Chicago and you want the best agency in Illinois? Obviously, Family Source is going to be your first choice. um, so finding a clinic that's local to you could be a benefit to you. But then there's also that option of like Family Source specifically offers nationwide coverage. There are a handful of states that we do not work with based on the laws for those states, but typically we can make the majority of those things work internationally or nationally. I apologize. The other thing to consider is, do you have a fertility clinic that you specifically want to work with? Like, are you choosing to do this because you know somebody who worked with a specific clinic? Some clinics offer surrogate or gestational surrogate programs internally, but they're just not very advertised. So finding an agency that really works for you is really where you need to start your study of like, who do you know that's been one? Where have they been? Where do they prefer to go? Do they have any advice about doing it or not doing it? Or do you not want to use an agency at all and you want to do an independent journey? I personally am not a fond person of independent journeys. I just think there's way too much risk out there, and not knowing, even as an experienced surrogate, there's just not enough risk that I'm willing to handle with the amount of stress I have at home. So figuring out, do you want to do an independent journey or do you want to do a journey with an agency and have those added benefits? A lot of our inquiries actually come in through Google searches or social media from a referral of a prior surrogate. So it's more of finding that best fit for you. But I'm surprised at how many people I find out have applied but didn't say anything to me. So I'm very open personally. Like, if you have questions before you even want to apply, reach out to that person that you know, whether it's me, whether it's a person that you know that did a surrogacy journey 10 years ago. Like, most people are very avid about wanting to share their stories and what made them fall into surrogacy.
I love that. And I really appreciate, like I said earlier, your willingness to just talk about surrogacy in general, and discuss the pros of being with an agency. Everyone has their own journey and maybe independent is for you, but there are so many things specifically that an agency can bring. And if you're not sure, maybe this live isn't the place, you can go ahead and ask that in other ways. Ask the former surrogate, connect with Jordan on Instagram or TikTok, and she will give you that exact answer and really be honest with you. I do have some pre-submitted questions that I wanted to go through, but I'm going to jump over to an audience question because why wouldn't I? But first, we're going to just say hey to Jasmine, our lovely surrogate ambassador, who recently delivered a very healthy baby for intended parents, and how she likes to follow with helping and talking information about surrogacy as well. So shout out to Jasmine. This question came in, and Jordan, this one is a good question. I've seen it multiple times. At what point should someone start the process of getting birth control implants removed if they're considering surrogacy?
This is actually a really good question because I actually had it come up with a surrogate recently. So it really just depends on, are you going to switch methods? because most IVF clinics are going to transition you to being on a birth control, like an oral contraceptive pill anyways, so that they can skew where your cycles are at. And they'll keep you on an active pill so that they can put your cycle schedule on the schedule they want.
Okay.
So when it comes to the implants, I believe most clinics want you to have 2 cycles post having it removed before they'll do your medical screening, kind of like breastfeeding, similar, because it's a high dose of progesterone, which is going to hinder you from ovulating. But my biggest factor is, are you going to switch to a different method? Because I don't want you to stop. And then if you still have a partner at home, are you putting yourself at risk for getting pregnant before doing medical screening? Personally, I'm one that recommends that if you have an implant, wait until after your match meeting and pre-approval process. Worst case, you get pre-approved, then you get it removed, and you only miss an extra month before you do medical screening. But it also depends on the clinic. Some clinics are like, no, just have it removed and come in. Some could be like, no, let's wait the 2 cycles. But you don't want to put yourself at risk for potentially conceiving your own baby just from having that removed too soon.
I love that answer. And I love that, communicating to the clinic is an essential part of that. And that it's okay to keep it in all the way through the pre-approval process. That way we know for certain that you're going to be switched or off and into your journey already. And there's no added bumps in the road, if you will, or bumps in the belly, added bumps in the belly. So thank you, Holly, for your question. I'm going to go back to the pre-submitted questions. And again, anyone watching, submit your question, we'll get it answered. So the next question, Jordan, is after researching online, how does a surrogate get in contact with an agency? Let's just use us, for example. How do they contact us?
Ours is really actually quite simple. So there's 2 options when you send us either an inquiry or send us an application. Either way, we're getting your information from you, and then we reach out based on whatever you're doing. So if you're like, I don't really know if I want to send you all of my information and do an application. I think I want just to know like a couple more questions, or I feel confused on X, Y, and Z. So let's get those questions answered before I do a full application. Or maybe you've only had 1 baby, so the history is not going to be significantly long, like myself, who's had a lot more deliveries. So filling out that application does not seem intimidating, and you can just fill it out. The best part is that if you decide you don't want to move forward, just because we have your application doesn't mean you have to do this. Like, you can back out pretty much at any point of the process, as long as it's before matching. Well, I mean, technically you could be matched. It's more before medical clearance. There's risks, but you can still back out before all these other parts.
There's no real pressure involved. It's submit if you're interested and get as cleared as you want to be cleared.
Yep. And it's pretty easy. Family Sources page is like, you just click surrogate, and then there's an inquiry tab right on the first page. And like I said, if you're not sure that you want to apply, just send us an inquiry. So our intake coordinators are really good at reaching out within 24 hours and answering any questions you might have.
That and most of our staff has been former surrogates in this team. So if you're talking to them when you submit an inquiry and you have a question, they're most likely going to be able to answer it from their own perspective, but also from a professional perspective. We have a lot of additional members on staff who have been the intended parent, and we've also got midwives and obviously our nurses on staff. So I don't think there's a question you can think of that we can't answer for you. If you have it, submit the inquiry and just start the communication process. So thank you, Jordan. I'm going to go ahead.
There's no stupid questions. Like, there's only good questions that people clearly just want to be educated on. So even if you feel like it's silly, not silly.
I love that. That is so important. So this is the question. This is the question that this entire live Q&A is all set up for. We've submitted our inquiry, we've submitted our application, and we've had our consultation meeting, and now all of a sudden it's information gathering, and it can be overwhelming. what can I do to better prepare for that moment? Is there anything I can do in advance? What do we need ready? Anything at all. Jordan, when a surrogate chooses an agency, what information will she need in order to apply to get through the screening process into match? This is big.
Yes, this is the biggest thing that we deal with on the internal side for the medical review and the medical requests. So knowing what facilities you delivered at, knowing your clinic for your prenatal visits and the provider is best, because some have had providers move. If we can at a minimum have the location, city, state, name of clinic, that'd be great, because I don't know how many times I've looked up, a physician who actually worked in a different state, and then it turns out the records are 8 years old and he worked at this other clinic. And so even if you provided a screenshot of the clinic name with the phone number, that's an amazing start. Some other big things that we would love to have if you're considering it is, does the hospital that you delivered at require an authorization form? That's another thing we constantly are digging for. We have lots of times where it doesn't specify on their website. And so we'll submit a request and then they'll send us an auth form back. So good communication with intake and or the nurses for the match team to make sure that authorization gets signed, because we can fill it out if we find out later and then just have you sign it. Another great tool that most places are transitioning to is portals. So if you have your own portal, we are very discreet, but if you are willing to share your portal username and password, we can help you gain access to that. If you're not comfortable with that, we can describe what we're in need of, and you can do it yourself and see what we can do to skip ahead from waiting. Most clinics get 30 days before they even have to look at the fax that we send. So if we can save 30 days, great. Some other things that I know they collect for the intake process are photos of you and your kids, photos of you and your spouse if you have one, photos of you and your family members, just stuff that you would want to present to somebody that you're going to help build a family for, because this is kind of like their first impression of you when we construct your profile. Other things are if you had a COVID vaccine, most clinics, when we submit your records, want a copy of your COVID card if you were vaccinated. And if you were not vaccinated, typically that clinic will just send you a waiver to sign. So again, just that communication of us letting you know, hey, I sent you an email. Will you sign that and send it back to me? So being responsive is also pretty important to make things go quicker. And then I feel like there was one more. Your most recent PAP. It might not be the same as your prenatal or your delivery areas. So wherever you had your most recent PAP smear or annual visit, whether that was with your family provider or your OB, or you moved and you have a new OB that you've only seen one time, that's something that we look for. So having that PAP within 3 years is also something. So if you're thinking about applying, make sure that you have a PAP within the last 3 years. I know some insurances are transitioning to 5, but it also depends on your age. So just know that on the ASRM portion of us doing review, they like them within 3 years.
I love everything you just said. And I think a couple key takeaways that I just want to reinforce is that in order to proceed in this journey, medical record collection is a big piece, from your PAP to your deliveries to everything about that. And so being able to have your accurate doctor name, location, a contact number or email, as much information as you can possibly gather to help our team gather that for you is going to make the process so much quicker and easier for you. And if you have some information, they're still willing to work and help you figure it out, but come with as much as possible. And there's nothing against you pre-gathering your own records and having them ready and just being like, here, family source, I'm ready to be a surrogate. So, we love excelling people, and you can definitely go out and pre-collect your own and have them ready. We have had some surrogates show up and be like, here's my stack. We love that. We will take any version of it, but go ahead.
No, I'm agreeing mostly. Especially like not to lowball anybody, but like the Army hospitals or bases that have hospitals, they're so hard to get records from. So if you have history of having a delivery at a naval base or an Army base somewhere,
at all.
Yeah, like if you can provide your own downloaded portal records or help us get the request ahead of time, that saves so much time because they don't really like to deal with third party as much as they will with the person themselves. So I had another cue after what you were saying, and it just left my brain after I said
It will come back. And I think that's a good point to make, Jordan, is that, it's going to go faster if you personally are the one who requests the records from your clinicians, from your OB, from all of the history. It's not a requirement. Obviously, if you can give the information, we'll track that down. But if you are able to, it would make it so much easier because these clinics want to deal with you directly. You were their patient. We are an outside source. So it would be really great. And that's a great partnership coming in ready with that. And if you're unsure how to start, we can help with that. Oh, Jordan just remembered.
I remembered. I had actually an example. So I had a surrogate that claims a delivery from 2009 or something, and she's like, the hospital's closed. So I researched the hospital and found out that the hospital was just bought out by another hospital. So the request goes to the new hospital, but they still have records for the original hospital on file. So even if your clinic or your hospitals are closed, still provide us with that name, because when we send those requests, I can put, this is for XYZ hospital, but you're now known as ABC Hospital. They have other systems or archives that they can get into to look up those old records. So fun story, I got those records within an hour. I was ecstatic today, but even if it's something that you think is not going to be obtainable, there is a possibility that it could be obtainable. And most states legally for like labor and delivery specifically require records to be held longer, even if the state requirement is actually significantly less, just because labor and delivery is one of the realms of nursing and medical areas where suing can happen 18 years later. So there has to be some kind of records. So even if we only get a delivery note, that still is considered partial. So just know, even if you think that they're not obtainable, just give us a name. We can find it. Find something.
Because there could be multiple names, right? A name and a location of where you were. And I think that's a great example. I personally, a lot of the doctors that I saw 10 years ago have either retired or moved on, but the clinic that they retired from still has my records from that time. Even though I know nobody there on staff, they still have my information. And so don't think there's no hope. It's just help us help you by providing a doctor or a clinic or a hospital's name and an area, maybe the city of Atlanta or the state of Georgia, so we can narrow it down just a little bit. That is always super helpful. Thank you.
That is something. I had someone give me a name of a hospital, and it's actually a fairly common name, but researching in a remote position, I got 6 different locations in 6 different states. So that is definitely helpful.
And if you're not able to, that's fine. That's what our team is going to help you hunt down. So the next part of this is if you come with partial information, do not worry about that. We will work with you. However, be on your email and ready for text messages, because we are going to be right there communicating. And the faster you respond, the faster we can get you to match, which is the ultimate goal. So that leads me to my next question, Ms. Jordan.
Sorry, my whole computer for no reason. But now you're back up, so I apologize.
Oh, that's all right. Well, we didn't lose camera, so you were here the whole time. I don't know how that happened. So this leads us to our last
Good.
pre-submitted question, and I think this is the most exciting one. We've gathered our records, we've given you everything, and we have now been approved. What happens once approved and it's time to move forward?
You get to move to matching. Matching is phenomenal. That's the best part. So at this point, we've probably informed you you're all good. We're moving you forward to start sending you profiles. Typically, we'll send you an intended parent profile and at the same time send you your profile to pre-approve it. We do all the editing and stuff on the intake portion, but we also do some edits added in if needed when you do your medical review. So it's like, oh, this person thought they had preeclampsia and it was actually PIH instead. So we'll edit those to be accurate for what your medical records reveal. And if there was any big changes made to your profile, we send it to you to sign and approve before we submit that to the intended parents we're presenting to you. And that's the exciting part is you get to say, hey, yeah, I love this profile, or no, I really want X, Y, or Z within my intended parents, or I don't really want international parents. I think I want to change my mind. Those are great. So then we either send you a new profile or we inform those intended parents that you now want to meet with them. We present you to them. And if they also want to meet you, we coordinate match meetings. After the match meeting, if all parties decide that they would like to move forward, you can still back out. Like if you're like, something felt off, I didn't really love that meeting, or I have follow-up questions, that's totally fine. But if all parties decide they want to move forward, that's when Alyssa or I will be sending all those records that we just reviewed to that intended parent's fertility clinic for pre-approval. Pre-approval can take a little bit of time as well, just depends on the clinic. Some can get back to us in a couple of days. Some of us take about 3 or 4 weeks. So really varied scale, but we try to keep you on the know for where we're at, or if we were given an estimated timeline. But that's where it gets exciting. You get to kind of make this whole lengthy process that can take anywhere from, 1 to 3 months to get the review process done to like matching, and it's official, and you're seeing profiles that you might actually be working with in the future.
I think that's so your excitement is just infectious and I love it. I love how much you love helping families grow and become complete. It's just a beautiful thing. And I absolutely love that you said, oh my gosh, you get to go to matching, and you celebrated that. That is a win. And that is our goal. We want to get you there. We want to find the right parents for you, because there's enough parents and enough surrogates that we're going to find that beautiful match, like eHarmony for family building, right? It is not necessarily for soulmates, it's for family building. And that is what we're really great at. And I love the excitement that you have, because Jordan made it clear that, you as a surrogate get to choose those parents. And if you're not comfortable, move on to another one, because we're going to find you somebody that you just absolutely adore.
Yeah.
So I loved this. We are coming to an end of today's, of course, live Q&A. This will not be the last one. We will have another version of this in August, or are we in July? In August or September, we'll have Alyssa, who is Jordan's peer, join as well, and really ask more questions surrounding the intake process, because I think that is so important. The more transparent we are and the more open and clear we are with all of you, the easier that process is going to be, and the more comfortable you feel in the process. You're going to have the support. You're going to arm yourself with information so you're ready to roll and not feel so overwhelmed, because it can get overwhelming. So with that, Jordan, if someone has questions that we didn't answer here, how can they connect with you or your team?
So Family Source's website, you can go to the inquiry tab and ask questions. You can email us at gcintake@familysourceconsultants.com. You can message me or comment on any of my posts on Instagram. Again, that's @JordanAlicia, or TikTok. I don't really do personal messages if I'm very transparent. I'm better with comments. So if you comment and my answer is going to be way too long, then I'll probably private message you or find another way to contact you. But comments are a much better format for me. It also allows me to then take your comment and maybe put it in a video and go, hey, I got this great question, and answer it for other people who might be curious too. So
I love that. And so I put our email up. Pretty sure I typed it correctly, so we're good to go. And our website is a wealth of information. We also have, which if you were on earlier, you got to say hi to Jasmine. We have our incredible surrogate ambassadors who've been through this with us or actively going through this. They know our intake team very well, but they're also available for questions. And if you emailed GC Intake at Family Source Consultants and wanted to speak with one of our ambassadors, we would have our ambassador program manager, Hannah Frey, who is also a surrogate or former surrogate with us, connect with those ambassadors and post questions as well. So there's so many avenues for you to get information and answers to make sure that you're ready to roll in this journey. So the last thing I'm going to ask you, Jordan, is there anything else you'd like to add or share about surrogacy in general? One more time, celebrate the heartbeat confirmation for your third journey. Anything you want to share with those watching?
I just think that I fell into this process. So it's amazing how something I fell into and was very just like nonchalant about the first go around, and how now it just completely changed my life. It completely changed my kids' life. It's opening their mind to like family building options, because I just don't think that it's really talked about. And I think having my kids be involved with me as a surrogate and asking me how things are going has opened their minds. And they clearly talk to their friends about it, because I get lots of weird questions from the neighbor kids. It is completely life-changing in all the positive ways. Even the hard parts are just, in an optimistic way, a constructive learning curve. So
I love that. Thank you for your time. As always, it's been a pleasure. And again, for any of you watching either live with us or after the fact, if you have questions you didn't get answered, submit them. We will get them answered. We will not leave any question just sitting there stale. We are here for you. Communication is our foundation of quick and right back to you, because we never want you to wonder or wait for anything when it comes to talking to us. So Jordan, I hope you have a lovely night, and for everyone else out there, you as well.
thank you so much.